Hello and welcome to this week's episode. I'm Ben.
I'm Faye.
And I'm Hugh.
Come take a seat with us on the Mockery Cushion as we leave our earthly bodies and sink into the ripples of time. So would you like to introduce us to this week's topic, Hugh?
Yes, so this week we are going to be discussing Nostradamus, who was a French astrologer, physician, and reputed seer. And he wrote a collection of 942 poetic quatrains, which are alleged to predict the future. And a quatrain is a sort of a poem-like piece of writing which consists of 4 lines. He was born Jewish, but he converted to Catholicism to avoid persecution in France. And he studied maths, philosophy, astronomy, and various other topics from an early age. And it's believed that he was educated in the occult from a very early age also. And
What's the occult?
The occult, well, things like magic, sort of, I guess, pagan.
Okay. Oh, like like alchemy and stuff.
Yeah, things like that. He was encouraged to become a physician by his grandfather, and interestingly, astrology was very closely tied to medicine and being a physician, as they believed that in healing someone, you're not just healing the physical body, but it was also about healing the soul as well. And
so have you got an example of a quatrain?
Yes, I have. I've got many examples. So,
oh, wonderful.
Let's have a look.
So, I was just going to say the reason that we're talking about him is because of his predictions of the future, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
There are many cases which he wrote these quatrains, and they seem to be fairly accurate. The ones that seem to be most significant are ones that happened maybe a century or two after he died, or within a century or two. So an example of his quatrain is this first one. This is from century 1. So he wrote a set of these quatrains, and he called them each centuries, and they each had 100 quatrains in them. So this one reads, "The young lion will overcome the older one on the field of combat in a single battle. He will pierce his eyes through a golden cage, 2 wounds made one, then he dies a cruel death." Now, do either of you know what this is referring to?
Lions.
Something about
Kings of England?
Yeah, so it's referring to Henry II of France and how he will die. I'm not sure if he wrote this with the knowledge of who he was talking about. It was later seemed to be a pretty clear depiction of Henry II's death. So what happened was, it was in a jousting competition. And so the first line is, "The young lion will overcome the older one." I believe it was a young relative who was jousting with Henry II. And as they were charging towards each other, the lance of his opponent crashed straight into Henry II, and it went straight through, the lance went straight through his eye and right into his brain. He later died of a really horrible infection and was in excruciating pain for 10 days before he died. So,
that's a horrible way to go.
It's pretty bad, pretty nasty.
I think it's also interesting to mention here that Nostradamus actually worked or he was present in the court of Catherine de' Medici, and she was married to Henry II of France.
I think I think she was the first one to become interested in him, and she reached out to him, and he actually predicted the future of her children. So I believe she had 7 children. He wrote something, I'm not sure if I've got the exact quote, but it was something like 4 branches will die, leaving 3 remaining. As it turned out, 4 of her children died fairly young. It's also interesting to note that one scholar said that if Nostradamus had never made any predictions, he'd be remembered as one of the great healers of the 16th century.
Right.
As he had many progressive ideas about medicine, and he used concentrated doses of vitamin C from rose petals to treat his patients.
But it's because he made the predictions that became the people's general view of him in hindsight, I guess.
And so let's have a look at his method that he used to predict the future. So he worked by night, and what he did was he filled a brass bowl with water, and he passed a wand over the surface of the water, and he sent vibrations through the water, and he would watch the ripples in the water and go into a kind of a trance. And apparently through this trance he would leave his body and slip sort of out of time, and thus be able to see future. And this is where he had all of his visions.
Right.
And then apparently he would just come out of this trance, and he would have all these quatrains written down in front of him.
So he'd written them whilst he was in the trance?
Yeah, supposedly.
Did anybody witness his weird trances?
I think he probably just recorded his experience. Yeah.
Because I mean, water like that is quite a common method of not necessarily hypnosis, but extreme relaxation, isn't it? And out of body experiences. We'll just spend an hour in the bath and see what I come up with.
You come out really wrinkly if you're in the bath for an hour.
But it says here most of his quatrains relate to things which are disasters, like natural disasters or battles and wars and so on.
That's right. Yeah, he made predictions of several dictators, which he referred to as antichrists. He just didn't have any other word to describe them, really.
Right, so like evil figures. Yeah,
forces of evil. And one of these people was Napoleon, apparently.
French Revolution.
Exactly. So I'll read you a quatrain. An emperor will be born near Italy. He will cost his empire very dearly. Oh no, that's not good. That's not right. No, it's written out. There's like a typo in here.
Are you sure he didn't just write it wrong? He was in a trance after all.
Yeah, he started writing it and then the water spilled and he was like, nah.
Is there a big line where his hands just gone across the page?
Yeah.
Yeah, he spilled his water over his notebook.
I've got one. So it says Pax ne Lauron, which is meaningless, will be more fire than blood. Bathed in praise, a great escape is assured. Those worried will refuse him entry, but doubtful that for long they will hold him confined. And the meaningless words at the start is an anagram of Napoleon Rex, i.e. like Napoleon the King.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about like a long time before Napoleon here, like 200 years at least.
So this is Century 1, Quatrain 60. An emperor will be born near Italy, who will cost the empire dearly. It will be said when his allies are seen that he is less a prince than a butcher.
In fact, I just looked here, and I don't know if you've seen, there are some about Hitler as well.
Yeah, I've got one about Hitler, yeah.
Oh yeah, far away.
This one goes, beasts ferocious with hunger will cross the rivers. The greater part of the battlefield will be against Hister. Into a cage of iron will the great one be drawn, when the child of Germany observes nothing So it's all very cryptic, really. But
I've got
yeah, go on.
there's one here which is Century 5, number 29. Liberty is not recovered. They shall be occupied by a dark, fierce, iniquitous villain. When the edicts of the Pope will be overruled by Ister, again like Hister, which is, I guess, his transliteration of Hitler, and Italy is a fascist republic. So that's incredibly specific.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's really specific. That
That's
one.
strange.
Of course, referring to Mussolini at the time.
Yeah.
This is 400 years before Hitler was
Yeah.
even born.
Yeah. What was interesting, some people have pointed out that Hister is apparently the original name of the river where Hitler grew up.
Oh,
Which is strange. Yeah.
right. Century 4, number 68. In a place very close, not far from Venice, the two agree to expand into Asia and Africa. From the Rhine, and Hitler, again, Hister, will wrongly speak for Venice, cries tears at Malta and the coast of Liguria. And that's apparently relating to a secret meeting held near Venice between Hitler and Mussolini in 1940 to discuss Italy's entry into the war. And also it relates to the Italian troops beginning attacks on Malta.
So I have another one. Let's see if either of you can guess what it might be referring to. So this is Century 1, quatrain 81. 9 will be set apart from the human flock, separated from judgment and counsel, their fate to be determined on departure, great blame, to the others great praise.
It's not something to do with the space mission, is it? Or
you're right. It is.
Shuttle disaster or something.
Yes, it's the Challenger disaster, 1986. Well, I mean, that's, this is what people are attributing it to. Yeah. Yeah. So the Challenger disaster was a terrible accident where the shuttle burst into flames only like 70 odd seconds into
and like disintegrated over the.
Yeah, and all the people on board died instantly, and it was live on TV, which is pretty horrific. Eerie.
The word departure and things are just strong implications of.
Yeah, and the second, so it says 9 will be separated from the human flock, separated from judgment and counsel, as if like you could see that as they're being
above
separated.
The law of Earth, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, away from.
This is really weird because I was expecting them to be extremely vague.
Yeah.
In the sense that they couldn't be applied, they could be applied to anything, but.
Yeah, and a lot of them are vague. If they're.
But then you don't know until the event happens, I guess, and then
that's true. You can say,
well, I mean, clearly it's referring to this.
And if we were to believe Nostradamus when he talks about having these visions, I guess he's not going to know what he's looking at necessarily, especially things that are in the future, which will just appear very alien to him. But so there's another translation of that same quatrain. 9 will be set apart from the human flock, separated from judgment and advice. Their fate is to be divided as they depart. K.th.L, dead, banished and scattered. So some people think that the K, the TH, and the L refers to the company which built the shuttle. Obviously, there's quite a big discrepancy with relation to translations, and that's actually where a lot of the criticism comes from, is the wide discrepancy in the translations.
Is it translating from like early modern French, I suppose?
Yeah, and I think some people have said that, well, the people translating it didn't really understand the French that they were translating it from. They just didn't really know what they were dealing with, and so it's resulted in these wide discrepancies.
This is Century 2, number 28. The last son of the man with the prophet's name will bring Diana to her day of rest. At a distance they wander in a frenetic grief, delivering a great people from ruin, which is apparently said to refer, obviously, to Diana, Diana's death in the car crash. The Son of Man with the prophet's name being Muhammad al-Fayed, who was, was her he was her partner, wasn't he, at the time, I think?
Yeah.
But if a lot of people, didn't they accuse him of having a part in organizing the assassination?
Yeah. There's several that are attributed to 9/11. Century 10, quatrain 72. The year 1999, 7th month, from the sky will come a great king of terror, to bring back to life the great king of the Mongols, before and after Mars to reign by good luck. The first line says the year 1999, and apparently some crypto-analysts say that in code-breaking terms, apparently the number can be reversed so that the 9 becomes a 1 and vice versa. So therefore 1999 becomes 1119. Yeah, so this figure is then reversed to become 9111 or 9/11/01, which
It's the same idea of last week.
Which is I'm not sure if I'm convinced by that.
I mean, is this taking into account, by the way, because this is at a time when we weren't on the Gregorian calendar yet?
Yeah.
So maybe we have to look into that.
It's all well and good to speculate that the number 1999 can be decoded in a way to mean 9/11/01, but the number itself is still irrelevant to 9/11.
Right. Yeah.
Therefore,
is it? I mean, surely it wouldn't be that. He wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been that encoded, and he wouldn't have predicted an encoding in a coding system which didn't exist yet either, because that's a further level of prediction.
True. Yeah.
I mean, and the thing is, obviously he wasn't. I get the impression from his method that he wasn't intentionally writing these. He wasn't thinking these up and writing them down. He didn't get to choose how specific they were. It was just like, for example, there's one here, which is quite funny. The younger son of a great and hated prince will be greatly marked by the time he is 20. His mother will die of grief, very sad and thin, and he will die when the cowardly flesh falls. And people have tried to apply it to Prince Harry, because obviously of him like leaving the royal family and stuff.
Right, I've got one for you.
Yeah.
Can you guess what this one's about? The blood of the just will commit a fault, burnt through the lightning of 23's the 6. An ancient lady will fall from her high place. Several of the same sect will be killed.
Don't know.
So people speculate that this one is him foretelling the Great Fire of London. 23's and 6. 23's gives you, 60 plus the 6 is 66. So the year of the Great Fire of London was 1666. The lady falling from her high place is meant to be like the great city falling. Yeah,
that's the problem with this. Is enough stuff happens every year somewhere in the world, especially now that we know about everything in the world that happens. That
it's sort of like the law of large numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not too hard to apply it to something.
Like his predictions, because they're quite vague, they could just be applied to any major dramatic event that happens ever.
Yeah.
But there's a major following for this, isn't there? That like Nostradamus has modern day followers.
So he was traveling, and he met a monk, and Nostradamus fell to his knees and said that he wishes to kneel at the feet of His Holiness the Pope. And this was just an ordinary monk. But later on, this monk would become Pope Sixtus V.
But it's interesting that this was all happening. So this book was published in 1555, around the same time, as we were saying before, in another part of the world, in Mesoamerica. The Mayans were creating their calendar, which came into use in, I think, in 1582.
Wasn't that the same as the Gregorian calendar?
I think it might be actually, which is a bit weird.
1582
Yeah,
was
'cause I
Gregorian.
remember us talking about that last year. Yeah, it was October. October 5th. Is that what I said? Oh God, sorry, I've had a Benjamin Kyle moment.
Yeah, oh dear.
It's difficult to point to specific predictions here. I haven't really found much. So they had a smaller calendar which they counted the days with, and then once it got to a certain period, they had something called a long count calendar, sets of years. I guess like we would do sort of centuries and stuff. It was when they stopped counting what had been something like a 5,000 odd year long cycle of counting, and it stopped. There was some kind of apocalyptic event. So the original idea there was that it was supposed to happen. Well, I think the exact date was something like this year. It was June of this year, 2020. But people said something to do with the Julian calendar, which, if you convert the dates, this is feeling a bit deja vu, but if you convert the dates, it went back to December 2012. But people have related it to the concept of Planet X, which is a planet which was going to crash into Earth or pass by Earth and disrupt the poles in a way which would cause an apocalyptic event. This was a woman called Nancy Leader who proposed this back in. She thought it was going to happen in 2003, and then since then, different people have related it to the Mayan event.
And was she just a sort of a psychic medium sort of person?
So something like that. So she claims that as a young woman, she's one of these people who's had contact with extraterrestrials. So that's what she explains, that she's a sort of medium for contact with extraterrestrials who told her that there would be a distant planet that was inbound for the Earth. But I mean that the 2012, the concept of 2012 as a doomsday hypothesis really took off, didn't it? I mean, there was a lot of assertions, kind of new age beliefs about what would happen, and obviously there were films made. It was referenced a lot in popular culture.
Yeah, but did people actually think the world was just going to end?
So I'm looking at in 1975, this concept of the Mayan disaster in 2012 became a sort of assertion or speculation by a lot of new age authors, and they said so there was something about that it actually not necessarily the end of the world, but it would be a transformation of consciousness, or a global transformation of some kind.
A shift in vibration or something. That, something like that sounds like David Icke or something.
Well, yeah, I was saying before, that Graham Hancock, who said that, I think it was in a book in 2015, he said that the Mayans were not speaking of the end of the world necessarily, but the end of an age, which would be a great time of transformation and world rebirth. And he said it would be followed by the beginning of a new great age or great cycle of the world, which obviously sounds really vague, but
I mean, that might be more appropriate for 2020.
That's a good point.
If you were to interpret it in that way, considering the shifts that are currently taking place,
world changing, in pretty much everything really, in politics and health. I suppose.
And on that topic, did Nostradamus have any predictions in relation to current events regarding a particular virus? So there's been a fake prediction of Nostradamus circulating the internet, which was never written in any of his centuries. And it goes, "There will be a twin year from which will arise a queen who will come from the east and who will spread a plague in the darkness of night on a country with 7 hills, and will transform the twilight of men into dust to destroy and ruin the world." it will be the end of the world economy as you know it.
As if he wrote the word economy.
You mean like the end of the world economy as you know it? Okay.
That sounds so like something from a movie.
Yeah. It's like
the rest of his words are quite elegantly written, and
yeah,
that's
it was going quite well until it'll be the end of the world economy as you know it.
Zuckerberg will take over the internet.
Yeah. You should have just said at the end, and the new world order will take over the world, and the interpretation is that the twin year is 2020, and there will arise a queen (brackets corona), which means crown. It'll come from the east.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it'll come from the east, which is China. It'll spread a plague in a country with 7 hills, Italy, the 7 hills of Rome. But yeah, just so you'll know, that's fake.
Oh, by the way, did anyone point out that it's not even a quatrain? I don't think there's it's not got 4 lines.
In the feeble lists, great calamity through America and Lombardy. The fire in the ship, plague and captivity, Mercury in Sagittarius, Saturn warning. So people think that through this quatrain, he predicted the coronavirus. Now, interestingly, the bits that people pick out are America and Lombardy, which were among the places that had the most deaths related to the virus. According to the current stats, they've had just under 17,000 deaths.
And I'm guessing none of us are good enough astrologers to know what the bit about the star signs might indicate.
Yeah, I don't know. Sadly, I didn't do. I wish I had done my degree in medieval university, but I haven't.
Yes.
Sagittarius is the constellation, and Mercury is the planet. So I just assume it's when Mercury moves into Sagittarius due to its orbit, which it did earlier this year.
Okay.
Is it the leap year as well?
Or how do you know? This could have been the one every 400 years that they skip, or whatever it was.
By the way, do you know what they studied at medieval university? I'm interested if you know this.
How many subjects? Because I feel like there.
I'll give you a clue. All right, so that you do 2. There was sort of like a bachelor's degree, which I think was 3 years, and then if you did 6 years, you got the Master of Arts. I'm pretty sure it was all arts. So you did a Bachelor of Arts. And so there's. I'm giving you more clues here. So there's. The Bachelor was the Trivium, which is 3 subjects, and the Masters is the Quadrivium, which was 4 extra subjects.
Okay, the star one, astronomy.
Astrology.
Astronomy is one of the Quadrivium. Yeah.
Wait, sorry. Can you say it again? So, what were there subjects that you had to study?
Yeah, everyone did everything. There was you didn't pick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's why they were all polymaths. They did everything. So you did the trivium, and then you did the quadrivium. One of which is astronomy.
Music.
It's included, which basically means astrology in medieval sense. Music is correct. That's one of the master's subjects. Yeah.
Well, Nostradamus studied music.
Everyone studied music back when people actually understood how important it is.
Yeah.
Something like geometry.
Yeah, very good. Geometry is one of them, one of the 4.
But then if you're doing geometry, wouldn't you do like numbers or like arithmetic or?
Yeah, arithmetic. That's the 4th quadrivium. Yeah, well done. And then there's just a trivium which you haven't got. These are more of like the ancient Roman type arts.
So Nostradamus studied rhetoric. Yeah,
that's one of the trivium.
Right.
Yeah. So these are like the classical arts. So rhetoric.
Right.
Like, I don't know, something like fables or writing or something.
Well, I'll say grammar. They studied grammar. Yeah,
okay.
There's one more.
There's one more, which is a bit weird. It's sort of like it's a bit like a precursor to philosophy, I guess. I guess it's problem solving, but not necessarily. Yeah, it's sort of. Yeah.
It's
something obvious. We'd never study it now, but
metaphysics. I don't know.
Oh, they did actually add that afterwards. That's one of the
Really?
that's one of Aristotle's arts, isn't it? He did.
Wow.
They added physics, metaphysics, and also philosophy
Oh,
later.
wow.
But this is one of the originals.
Right.
Is logic. That
Logic.
simple. And they studied
Wow.
logic. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking something about like thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe we like to have a lesson in logic. So a lot of the skepticism regarding Nostradamus quatrains is to do with translation. Documented accounts and suspicions of deliberate misinterpretations and mistranslations are quite prevalent, and they've caused sources to reject the claim that Nostradamus had any prophetic ability at all. It seems like a lot of them didn't really understand that era of the French language very well. But
yeah, I mean,
apparently,
that sort of, it's a bit of a weird. That's before French really became a standardized language. It was very it wasn't until the 17th century that it really.
So there's a lack of knowledge of 16th century French by modern authors and translators, and the quatrains are often deliberately mistranslated to basically push them to fit a certain narrative. Yeah, I think he was a very unique individual, and if you think
creative
about
mind,
so it seems like he was a very strange individual. Definitely a bit of an oddity. Something strange going on.
Should have gone to RNCM.
Yeah, should I? Yeah, that's where all the weirdos hang out, isn't it?
So, Faye, do you think Nostradamus could see into the future?
There's no way that he could have predicted something 500 years in his future, unless, because some of his predictions are quite vague. So he probably just predicted that some bad stuff would happen, and then the people now have linked it.
Yeah, to be honest, I was going to point out that that's why all of his predictions relate to events of destruction and sadness. And I mean, look, like, to be honest, what happens when you turn on the news? It's all doom and gloom, isn't it? Because that's the only thing people put on. That's the only thing people report about and put on TV. And it's quite easy to predict that mankind will always be troubled by wars and plagues and death and destruction and fear.
And any predictions about happy things?
There's not much of that.
Yeah, he didn't predict we'd go to the moon. He predicted that people would die in the process.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, shit all blowing up.
He thought this won't get on the news. I'll put in the one about them all getting blown up.
That's not going to sell. One other thing I wanted to mention in relation to the Mayan calendar predicting the end of the world and how it can be interpreted as being in 2020 instead of 2012. There's a video on YouTube which is called "Computer Predicts the End of Civilization" brackets 1973. This computer put in data. It had data about population, pollution levels, natural resources, things like that, and basically it predicted how they would change towards the end of the 20th century into the 21st century. Basically, they all get to the year 2020 and they all go very drastically downhill. It also includes a bit of an interview with members of the Club of Rome discussing this issue.
Well, thank you for joining us this week on the Mockery Cushion. If you like the episode, you can find our website where there's a link to a whole load of social media pages.
So give us a like on Facebook.
Follow us on Instagram and Twitter.
Or subscribe to us on YouTube, where our episodes will be uploaded as well.
And Spotify.
So come and join us next week when we'll be discussing a particular pandemic which shall remain nameless. It's not like we've got any other plans, so you might as well come and listen. So it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
So today we are going to be discussing. Oh, disgusting! Oh, my tongue.